Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Summer Learning Framework webinar series. We are going to give everyone about a minute to join. Thanks for tuning in today. All right, we will go ahead and kick it off. My name is Shaylin Macedonio. I am the Summer Learning Project Manager at TEA. I'm joined today by my colleagues, Brian Doran and Andrew Hodge. We are really grateful to be with y'all and very thankful that you tuned in. Today we are talking about topic 9 of the Summer Learning Framework, summer site operations. I just want to give a shout out to anyone that has been here for all 9 topics. I feel like you deserve a pat on the back. Please applaud yourself. Okay, this webinar series, and today is the last topic of the series. I know we will all be devastated, is brought to you by TEA, the Wallace Foundation, which heavily invests in summer learning, the RAND Corporation, which is where a lot of our evidence-based research comes from, and the Learning Agenda. All right, so if you are new to join us today, this is your first webinar, welcome. We're so glad you're here. Today's webinar is part of a series called the Summer Learning Framework. There are 9 elements to the Summer Learning Framework, and it's basically composed of evidence-based components that make up high-quality summer learning. So the 9th topic, the topic we'll be discussing today is summer site operations. If you have questions during today's webinar, please put them in the chat. We'd also love to see who's online, so feel free to pop in there and say hello and what district you're representing. Okay, oh dear, there we have it. The Summer Learning Framework. So what exactly is that? You may have received emails about it. The Summer Learning Framework is a free suite of resources to help districts with planning and onboarding supports to implement a high quality summer learning program. The Summer Learning Framework requires no application. It's nothing you apply to. It's simply information resources that TEA has created and posted online at texashomeLearning.org/summer to help districts create the summer learning program of their dreams that also help students really succeed. The framework is really broken up into 3 parts. We have the statewide webinar series, which is the 9th webinar, the final webinar of the series. You can find all the webinars online at texashomeLearning.org/summer, recorded along with the slides. The second part of the framework is the planning and resources, tools, examples, and templates that TEA has created to support each of the topics covered in the Summer Learning Framework and covered in the webinar. So for example, today, summer site operations, there will be accompanying planning resources, tools, examples, and templates that you guys can find online to help really put the information you heard today in action. And then finally, THL summer units. Texas Home Learning has custom designed units for summer. They're available for additional support to help you guys with materials and educator stipends, ding, 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 hear that loud and clear, available through THL and through KRIMZY, which we will talk about after we explore today's Summer Learning Framework. So the webinar series that I referenced was really broken down into 3 elements. First was how do you design and implement a high quality summer learning program? Second is what do academics and enrichment look like during summer? And third is operations. So all of the webinars in design and implementation, academics and enrichment have already taken place, except for it looks like 1 RLA webinar on April 9th. And the operations section, today we have the summer site operations webinar. All of these, again, will be available at texashomeLearning.org/summer if you want to dive into a specific topic. All right, so as we are thinking about the Summer Learning Framework, TA wanted to make sure that districts had kind of this master tool they could look at to help plan for summer. So we're actually going to go navigate to the Texas Home Learning website now and take a look. All right, so if you go to Texas Home Learning /summer, this is where all the resources on the Summer Learning Framework are housed. You're going to go over here to this link, Summer Supports, and click on Summer Learning Framework. You can see a description of the Summer Learning Framework here. As you scroll down, you can see a schedule of the webinars. Looks like we have a couple remaining that are part of the THL summer units. This is the last one that's part of the framework series. All right, so first I want to take a look at what is going to be probably the most impactful tool for helping you plan for summer. And it's right here next to the Start Here label. It's the Summer Learning Workbench tool, which you can think of as the master tool for the Summer Learning Framework. As you guys are planning for summer, you know, these resources are to help you plan for either summer 21 or 22. It's kind of an evergreen resource. So if you're planning for summer 21, you're going to want to look over here to the 3-month expedited planning phase tab. You can see that what we've done is we've taken all the components of the Summer Learning Framework, all 9 components, and then we have put them into a timeline for you. How do you think about these components and plan for summer over the next 3 months? So for example, if you scroll down, you can see there is a whole section for site operations, which we'll be talking about today. Now, if you're on this webinar because you are a super overachiever and you're planning for summer 22, you're going to navigate over here to this 12-month planning phase. And this is how you're going to be able, or you can, think about how do I plan for summer a year in advance using the 9 elements that TEA has identified as super important for planning a high quality program. And of course, all the instructions that are more detailed are available on the instructions tab. Lastly, like I said previously, each webinar has an accompanying specific tool. So since we're in the operations section of the framework today, we're going to click operations and scroll down to site operations, which is the topic we're discussing currently. You can see later today under webinars, you'll find a recording here, slides, tools and resources. We'll be going over some of these tools in the webinar today. And then district examples. If you are wondering, well, what does it look like for a district that actually does this really well? We found some. We made it easy for you guys. You guys can just look at these, and if you want, you can even maybe copy them. All right, so back to the presentation. It is about to be very informative. Like I said, we're here under site operations, and I'm going to turn it over to, my computer is, there we go. Brian, over to you. Take us away.
Great. Thank you, Shaylin. Good morning, everyone. As Shaylin mentioned, my name is Brian Doran. I'm also here at TEA within the Division of Innovative Instructional Models. So as Shaylin mentioned, we are talking through site operations today. So really 3 main objectives similar to other webinars that we have conducted here. First is really making sure that we're grounding in the research and the evidence-based practices. This is largely from the RAND research study. Second, we'll view several district examples of how programs are thinking through site operations. And then also have some next steps, strategies, and templates that we'll walk through as well for site operations. So first, we're excited to really have a study on summer learning that we're basing a lot of our information off of for this webinar series. And that was conducted by the RAND Corporation in conjunction with support from the Wallace Foundation. And within this report, we pulled out essentially 4 key recommendations for driving operational efficiencies within a summer program. So these are things that RAND highlighted as components that they see in strong programs and or barriers to making sure that folks are maximizing instructional time and enrichment time. So the first recommendation here is consider a cross-departmental departmental planning team. And so not only is it making sure that you have all the folks involved that you need to have involved, but it's also how you're using that time. And so what we're seeing with districts that are going through this in a strong way is that they have been able to bring in teams from across their district, from operational components to academics to enrichment pieces, and had them at the same table so everyone is aware of what's going on, and can do the thinking around how different programmatic components impact their specific subset. And so a couple components of this that we're seeing in practice. First is include a robust team led by someone who has autonomy to actually make decisions. So this is really underscoring what we're seeing with folks is a strong summer learning project manager who has autonomy within the district. Those are the folks that are really able to bring that group together and make strong programming. And then additionally, just bringing along all operational teams as early as possible in the process, even if it's just initially getting on board with food services at early fall if you're looking at a summer of 22 implementation, and you don't talk to them again until later on in December or January. Just making sure that everyone is on the same page with what's going to need to happen. I do want to highlight one planning team kind of layout that we actually did discuss as well. I believe this is on Tuesday's call. This is from Grand Prairie ISD and an example of the comprehensive nature of their steering committee for summer programming. This certainly is like the gold standard kind of situation here where they're having frequent meetings and have a core planning team together. So it's not meant to be a daunting example, more just an example of here's all the folks that they're bringing to the table. So their steering committee member, they have 11 on the actual steering committee itself who are meeting frequently, and then pulling in additional expertise as needed as well with that group on the right. Grand Prairie is a larger district as well, so this might look different for the medium or smaller districts out there where someone might have multiple of these roles, but just underscoring again the importance of a strong steering committee, and to the degree that you're able to, if you're just getting off the ground right now for summer of 21, thinking about who you can bring in to help do those planning pieces and make sure that all the pieces align. The next recommendation, which kind of ties to barriers that Rand found, are identifying facilities early. So making sure that you are working with your facilities team to make sure that you are navigating things like summer work, maintenance on their buildings. There are other components around that shift from the end of the school year into the beginning of the summer programming. So making sure that your summer calendar has adequate time to prepare the facilities. Some districts that might be the next day, but other districts might need a week to make sure that the facilities are prepared. Like I mentioned, making sure that you are successfully navigating the summer facilities work, and I think Rand had a story of one of their districts they were studying, an entire wing that they were planning on using at one of the sites was surprisingly, I guess, shuttered, for lack of a better word. And so they had to make a quick adjustment, and that doesn't help anyone, any of the teachers or any of the students in creating a smooth culture for that site program, for the summer program. And then the last recommendation here for the facilities piece is consolidating your facilities where possible to maximize, well, one, to get around that summer facilities work, but then also to push the operational efficiencies. So if your buses are only having to get to one campus, that's easier than multiple campuses and things like that. This is a very similar and perhaps obvious recommendation here, but avoid logistical barriers to instruction. So Rand noted that logistical challenges were common among the districts that they studied, but they did improve over time. I think the goal there is then to push those improvements much earlier in the process. So this is things like allowing for efficient meal delivery procedures, making sure your food services team is aware of how you're structuring your summer program, and has time, knows when that timeline and how that timeline will affect them. Ensuring all materials are ordered with enough time to process. So not just ordered in time, but then also to get from whoever is receiving those materials out to the different classrooms that they'll need to. And then procedural run-throughs, conducting those ahead of the summer programming, transportation, emergency plans, things like that. So ensuring that all of those pieces are conducted ahead of the program as well. The final recommendation to highlight from the RAND study is this transportation planning and the importance of keeping the transportation team aware and apprised of what's going on with your registration and enrollment throughout that registration process. So, a quick quote from the study itself: late planning also exacerbated the challenges of transportation route planning, particularly in cases in which districts allowed late enrollments. So just think through those components of how the transportation team is able to have a living document of enrollments and able to plan effectively for that. The other components around transportation here, ensuring the transportation team conducts the dry runs of routes, ensuring the transportation selection include the transportation selection in the registration process for students. So try to make sure that you are collecting that information as early as possible. And then also counteracting enrollment melt throughout the enrollment process. So similar to other pieces that we've talked through the entire series, transportation is heavily impacted around who is actually enrolled. And so summer melt also impacts that. One quick thing to flag while we are talking about transportation, I do want to note, somewhat from a funding standpoint, the school transportation allotment currently does not reimburse for summer school miles. The two exceptions are for additional days school year related miles. We talked a bit about that on Tuesday. And if you have more questions about additional days school year, do feel free to reach out to any of us on the call or adsy@tea.texas.gov. And then the second exception to this school transportation allotment is more specifically for students who in their IEP have the extended school year designated for special education services. Those miles do count for the school transportation allotment. All right, I'd love to take a quick pause and just hear from everyone on the call. So based on your vision for summer learning, what do you consider as the most pressing operational considerations at this point in the school year? What are the most pressing things right now? Thinking we are April 8th and summer programs start in around 2 months.
And this is a great time for districts to kind of help other districts with brainstorming. Very unique at the local level too. Like what are local obstacles, or what are some things your districts are really excited for to be planning for already? Oh, Hillary Oravec, thank you. She said getting curriculum and supplies ready for professional development. Definitely takes planning there. All right, I see parents ensuring that scholars attend. School year has been difficult with COVID. Yes, thank you, Dandria. Staffing recruiting, absolutely, Dr. Pariseau. Sites available that will not compete with summer maintenance. That's a good one from Tori Hernandez.
Great. All right, thank you all. Excellent to keep in mind. Keep those coming if you have any more considerations that you're thinking through right now. At this point, I do want to pop out and kind of feature a district and a district resource around that has done a lot of good thinking around summer site operations. And this is East Central ISD. We heard from Irma Jean Gaona last week on one of the calls, on one of the webinars rather. And she has done a lot of great thinking within her program at East Central. And so we're going to pop out and take a look a little bit more closely on a program operations and milestones document that she and her team have put together. And I'll have a couple of things that I'll highlight throughout this. We are here. There we go. All right. So a couple of things about this document. And first, let me show you where you can find this. We are currently under texashomeLearning.org/summer under the site operations tab, and then the site operations milestones for East Central ISD. This will open up a new link here to the East Central ISD program operations and milestones and due dates. So this, there are essentially 3 sections to this document that I'll highlight. The first is just a documentation of all the due dates that they have from an operational perspective for from December through May. So this is helpful to take a look at. I will also highlight a document here in a bit that does a similar thing of trying to keep track of all the different operational pieces in a more template format. So certainly, as you all can see, March through April and May, there's a lot of different bullets here. So different things to take into consideration as programs are nearing their start point. The next section here is really the bulk of what I want to talk through. And this is helpful to see kind of how East Central ISD is thinking through their operational planning and what different pieces they're factoring in. So we are taking this document from the ADSI Planning and Execution Program. East Central has been participating in that program in order to plan for a summer learning program this summer. And so these, when you see strategic planning questions, these are part of that strategic planning process through that program. And so just a quick background here from a demographic standpoint, East Central is planning on conducting a summer program at all 7 of their campuses. And then these subsequent questions here are all just different operational considerations that they're going through. So utilizing space, they are going through and thinking through just the different pieces within the buildings that they can factor in. How will the program coordinate between summer campus principals and school year principals? So they've set up a standing meeting every week between the summer learning project manager, the site coordinator, and then the coordinator themselves meets with the principal biweekly. So this is kind of an important piece to factor in on the staffing side of things. If you are flowing through with the same principals for your summer learning program as the regular academic year, this might be less of a consideration. Still certainly to have those frequent check-ins, but if you are having a different site coordinator than your regular year, this is an important connection piece between the principal during the regular year and the site coordinator, just to make sure everything is on the same page. Additionally, different pieces like campus maps and classes and all that enrollment components, all those enrollment components are taken care of. Helpful to make sure that those pieces are happening within these conversations. Safety and emergency plans. So this is a big consideration, especially if you have different site operators than your traditional year, or if you're bringing in teachers who are not familiar with that campus. So making sure you're thinking through those safety and emergency plans. For East Central, they are continuing the same plans from the school year. So it's fairly simple, and then they have their procedures outlined here of how they are getting that information out to their staff. Let's see here. Next thing I want to highlight here, daily transportation and logistics. So what does their master planning process look like for that? So for East Central, they have had a program in existence, so they're able to build off of previous summer's routes. And I think we're highlighting this really to show one, using planning procedures and components year after year, and trying to build off of what has been already created. If this is the first year of a program, I think the other consideration here is just trying to do whatever you can to, the common thing that we always hear in education, don't recreate the wheel, right? So making sure that we are able to use what is already in existence. And for East Central, that means routes from previous years and then iterating as they see the enrollment changes. They've also factored in things like arrival and dismissal procedures here. That's in a separate planning document, but just thinking through all the different components that you would think through from a regular year, those also need to happen for a summer program. They've outlined their transportation component and the registration that they're working on. Food services here, they've been having monthly meetings to update food services on registration plans. This again, they mentioned that this program has been in place for several years, and so this might look like a more frequent touch point for some districts if this is a new program. But given that East Central is confident in what's going on here, they are able to build off of previous years. This is an important piece also highlighted in the RAND study of how are all curriculum and professional development related materials and supplies delivered. Just several good details here in this narrative response. One thing to highlight, curriculum will be in tubs per classroom per grade level and include ancillary supplies and other materials. So they're thinking about the actual logistics of how to get these materials from the centralized location into the classroom, which certainly is common for regular year academics. And we want to make sure that that translates also to summer programs to minimize any sort of delay in getting those to teachers. They've factored in technology here and how to disperse that with teachers. So making sure that staff are on hand to help disperse that. They've factored in what their attendance system will look like. They're thinking through a Bell Excel system. I do want to highlight, actually, as I mentioned, Bell Excel, that this template itself, East Central ISD is working with Bell Excel and SCRI to help think through summer programming. So a big shout out to them for supporting through this. And then also just a quick shout out, credit where credit is due. These strategic plan questions are also were created by the learning agenda that we mentioned at the top of the call. So big thanks to them as well. And then some planning coordinate reflection pieces here. The last section is essentially a rubric on operational readiness. So we have success criteria over here on the right, and then what the essential elements are on the left. This is really getting into the weeds. So really, if you are just trying to make sure that summer of 21 is going, maybe take a look at this later. But if you you have things going smoothly and you think you want to just get to the next level, I would encourage you to take a look through these different components and think through how that can be factored into your program. All right. So big thanks to East Central there. I know Irma Jean was hoping to make it to talk through this as well. I'm not sure that we are seeing her on the participant list, but either way, big thanks to Irma Jean, Gauna, and East Central ISD for sharing their thinking here. All right. So next, we have several resources on the Texas Home Learning website that we'll talk through here. And so this first one is similar thinking of a work planning tool. And what we have on the Texas Home Learning website here, again, so first thing is a planning tool, the operations work planning tool. And so this is essentially a 3-month planning tool. So if you're starting now, this is meant to be all of the operational pieces that you really want to consider over the next 3 months. This is separated out into all 3 sections for this week that we've covered. So budgeting, schedules, and operations. So we do have pieces here for budgeting from Tuesday. We also have pieces around scheduling from yesterday. And then for today, operational pieces. So different things to take into consideration for facilities first. and an ideal timeline based off of a 3-month scenario, which is where we're currently at. And then transportation, so several just action items on the coordination piece occurring in March and April. And then on the execution side of things, some action items in May and June, and then even June and July as we're troubleshooting challenges. And I would extend that also to any sort of continuous improvement or documentation for future years. On the meals, really making sure that you're establishing meal times and supervision plans for each campus, draft menus and distribute menus. This is more on the site coordinator side of things, and then certainly the food services team would be doing everything that they need to do to make sure that they are prepped for that summer program. And then supplies, ordering in March or April, and then making sure you have a plan for the distribution and getting those out to folks by June or whenever your program starts. And then also managing supplies during and after. We all know that, certainly things pop up throughout the course of a program. So taking into consideration what those procedures and policies look like if they are going to be different from a regular academic year. So this, again, meant to be a 3-month timeline to capture the main pieces and main considerations that you may have throughout that process. The next tool that I want to highlight here is a site operations work plan. This is very similar in spirit to the 3-month plan that we just walked through. However, it's everything on a 12-month planning period. So this is a bit more comprehensive and really gets to also the first section that we walked through on East Central's plan of really documenting all those different bulleted pieces of things that need to happen throughout the course of the year. So I'm going to pop over to that plan here. I do want to highlight before I scroll down, this is not meant to overwhelm. This is not meant to kind of say like, oh, we're in April now and we have some timelines here that are, last fall. That's what this first document, that 3-month planning document is for, is capturing like, oh, you're starting or you're progressing right now. Use that 3-month document. If you're looking for summer of 22, or if you also want to use this more comprehensive plan just to make sure that you have accounted for all the things that need to account for, that's where this 12-month year-long work plan comes into play. So we've separated these out, and this is, again, really thanks to a lot of the work from the Learning Agenda and Wallace and team. So separated these out into the different categories that we're talking through for site operations. So for facilities here, we have components starting all the way in October and then into May for those different action items. These are also separated out by essential task and recommended task to help you think through that. And then across the top here, we have the recommended timeline of what we've identified for a 12-month planning process. And then if you were to use this for yourself, factoring in what is your timeline. And then the project plan components of who's responsible, approval, deadline, status, all those different components. If you do want to change some of these drop-down menus, for example, status, you can do so at the top of the sheet here. So we have currently in place, not started, in progress, pending approval, and completed. If those categories don't make sense for you, just change them here or even add a couple others right below that. And then, so scrolling down further from facilities, we have transportation components here, very similar makeup of the work plan overall, factoring in components from November up until the program in June and July. Food services, several essential and recommended components there. And then supplies and getting those supplies to campuses as well from a January to July timeline. So hopefully this is helpful if you are looking at a summer of 22 program, or you just want to make sure that you're factoring in all of the different kind of down to the minutia level of operational pieces, just knowing that on a site ops side, it's oftentimes just making sure you're tracking all of the things that need to happen and factoring those in. All right. The next tool I want to highlight is an attendance tracker. And so let me actually switch over. A quick logistics here on if you're going to texashomeLearning.org/summer, you might notice that if you click on the attendance tracker, it doesn't always go to that link. So if you right click and copy the link address and then paste that into a new URL, that will take you to the actual document. But let me go to that document now. This is an attendance tracker template. This is a modified template from the Summer Learning Toolkit from Wallace that they had highlighted that has been in use at Boston Public Schools, I believe. And so we took this and modified this for a quick plug and play template for the summer of 21. And so a couple tabs to highlight. First is the dashboard. This is meant to capture things like average attendance rate throughout the course of the program, errors and things like registration, and then also even from a registration component, what your current capacity level is at. And so the best way to work through this is go to the attendance tab itself and start documenting different students that you have for each campus. This is likely, you can use this however it makes most sense. You can do multiple campuses on the same spreadsheet, or you can also just keep a separate spreadsheet for each campus, which might be keep things a little bit cleaner. And then different categories here that are certainly modifiable if you need them to be, of ID number, language, grade, all these different components, registration information returned. And so this is a drop down yes or no, where if it's no, it'll pop up an error over here at the top of the screen, and then also flag that there's an error on the dashboard. So it's a helpful, just quick hit tracking system for any sort of documentation that you're looking for. That is similar for these two columns here. We left these as a generic supporting data column with the intent being use these however makes most sense for you. So let's say John Doe here does not have, let's say this is, we're changing this to transportation selection. And John actually hasn't completed that. That is just a great way to keep track of if that is, if you're collecting those documents or not. Then we can scroll over further to the right. And what we have here is basically any potential date for the summer program in summer of 21 is referenced across here in row 10. And then the goal here is basically change any of your actual program dates to a yes in row 8. So for this scenario, we have said that basically we're starting our summer program on June 7th. And so what we have done ahead of time is that we have indicated that the program is running on these days, starting in column V, and then indicated that across the board for every day that the program is running. And so this program would end on June 9th. And so all of those days will then calculate into the dashboard as well. Then for each student, as you're progressing throughout the course of the summer program, you just mark attended, not attended, or half day, or whatever makes most sense for your district. And just a quick and easy attendance tracking system if you do not have something else up and running for your program. The other just quick highlight is the dates go well into July and August, so just encourage you to hide columns where it makes sense for you as you're going through that. The other nice thing about this is it has a by student summary. So if you need to know like what John Doe's attendance rate is, you can go to this tab. This would be more, this will start calculating once the dates actually start hitting. So if we were to change the dates to, let's say, for example, we're starting on February 1st, that will automatically change all the dates week by week. So then these dates will have technically already occurred. So we can see how John's attendance is going. He had 70% attendance. That's not great. And so it creates a flag for that as well. So helpful resources here for ongoing tracking for attendance. 24. Okay. So that's the attendance tracker template in a nutshell. Again, credit where credit's due. So this is modified from a summer learning toolkit example from Boston's summer attendance tracker. All right, so let me go back over to the site operations site. The last tool and resource that I want to flag here is something that we also talked about yesterday on the enrichment webinar, which is the Square Meals Summer Meals Program. So just many of you have likely already taken this, factored this into your programming, but Summer Meals, this does not go through TEA, this goes through the Texas Department of Agriculture. So this site, squaremeals.org, goes to different information around the summer meals program that you can find here and utilize for your district. All right, let me pause here and see if there are any questions that would be helpful to field at this point.
Feel free to type questions in the chat if you have them, or make comments on anything that you've seen thus far. And Sylvia and Harvey, we are glad that you enjoyed the tools and the template.
All right, great. Feel free to keep popping in any questions as they come in. I'll head back over here to our slides. There we go. All right, so also we will have these linked out directly from the slides, which we'll post on the same website within this slide itself. So if you're looking for going through the slides later and need direct links, they'll be here. So just a couple quick reminders for things, sample site operations milestones over the next 3 months, knowing that we are quickly nearing summer of 21 programming. April really treating as final preparations, so different things like preparing the campuses for summer ops, plan your transportation routes, establish your meal times and supervision plan, order supplies. May, we're doing like a dry run mentality for campus walkthroughs, dry runs for transportation, draft the menus, or secure and review the draft menus rather, and then organize the supplies for distribution. And then June, we're really moving into that execution phase, just making sure that we are prepped and good to go. So all these components can be found on texashomeLearning.org/summer. Some quick hit next steps that we would recommend if you're taking a look at operations. First, take a look at that operations work plan. We have both options, the 3-month option for more expedited what truly needs to get done in the next 3 months. And then also the 12-month option, the more comprehensive list if you're looking at summer of 22 or you want to dive in deeper for this summer as well. Also take a look at that attendance tracker template. The work planning tool at the top of the call that Shaylin mentioned is also a great resource more holistically across all of the categories. And then also we are continually updating the district examples and other resources within every single category, including operations. So take a look at those categories. And if you do have anything that you would like to share as well, encourage you to send that in to Texas Home Learning at tea.texas.gov, and we'll take a look. We'd love to highlight more districts on Summer Learning Framework, and know that we have a lot of folks doing great work around summer programming here. So we'd love to highlight even more.
Hey, Brian, we had a good question come in the chat. It is from Mirna Lopez, and it's, are all Texas Home Learning Summer Unit instructional resources virtual, or are they available in packet form also?
That's a great question. So they definitely are available virtually. There are also printed components that are that you can use for different materials. From an ordering standpoint, we'll have to get back to you on more information on what that would look like. But also want to highlight, actually, I think this is a perfect segue into KRIMZY, which will provide some printed materials for folks in summer of 21 as well. Really quick, before I get into KRIMZY, this is the last webinar of the operations series. So we just have that. We'll post the recording here later today. Also want to highlight a couple academics and enrichment pieces. We have Odell Education, April 9th at 9 a.m., which is tomorrow at 9 a.m. So if you're interested in piloting 9 through 12 or using 9 through 12 summer units for RLA, I encourage you to tune in at that point. KRIMZY is the COVID Recovery Instructional Materials Support Initiative. And so this is 3 levels of supports that you can apply to that are all related to Texas Home Learning. As a reminder, Texas Home Learning products are available for any district across the state to access. You do not need to apply to KRIMZY to access them. But if you would like some additional support and some additional benefits, we do have these options available. And so I encourage you to take a look for your district. The first is spring adoption coaching for the 21-22 school year. So this is for if you're looking for Texas Home Learning products for 21-22, we can support you with some adoption coaching and try to help think through what makes most sense for your local context. The second is most pertinent for folks on this call is the summer pilot. And so if you are looking to use one of the summer units for Texas Home Learning, this could be a really good opportunity for you to receive some additional supports for your teachers and staff. And so this would be basically piloting a summer unit with a minimum of 15 days over the course of your summer program. We would have some additional professional development for your teachers, as well as stipends for your teachers to pilot those materials with fidelity. And so those stipends are $1,000 per teacher. They'll have some additional things like making sure they attend the PD, conduct some feedback surveys and some additional components for that. But hopefully a helpful situation for teachers. And then additionally for districts, we'll be able to provide printed materials for a lot of these units. And so encourage you from a district perspective also to take a look here at what might make most sense for you. Both option 1 and option 2 here, the due date is tomorrow. So we are encouraging folks to take a look at this quickly. It's hopefully not an overwhelmingly lengthy application. It was certainly not intended to be, but we do have several pieces of information that we do collect in it. So encourage you to take a look. If you have questions with the application or if you're concerned about that timeline, please do reach out to Texas Home Learning at tea.texas.gov. And then the final opportunity as part of this application, you can also select a 21-22 full year pilot. And this is where you'd be piloting at least one full year of Texas Home Learning, a Texas Home Learning product in the 21-22 school year. There's additional professional development for teachers, supports for districts. That application is due June 11th or until the capacity is full. So take a look at that as well if you are looking at Texas Home Learning. And with that, I will do the same soft closing that we've done for other webinars here. Thank you everyone for your time today. We will continue to field questions here as they come in. And then would also just love to hear what are a couple takeaways from this session that you plan to incorporate within your summer planning. And we will highlight some of those for folks across the state who are tuning into the webinar right now. And other than that, Shaylin, any questions that have come in?
No questions have come in this far, but I do want to say thank you for everyone who has joined us over the last 9 webinars. We're so excited to see the summer programs that you guys plan and incorporating the evidence-based research we've talked about in these webinars. And we're just so excited to keep supporting y'all. And if you have questions, I put the emails in the chat, but it's texasHomeLearning@tea.texas.gov. We'd love to hear from you. Finally, Brian, we're getting some in the chat. Some gratitude for the templates, which we're grateful for. And a note from Hillary took away that testing transportation routes and thinking about how do we communicate with families, all important. Veronica and Sylvia are grateful for the templates and resources.
Great. Well, thank you everyone for joining us today. If you do have any remaining questions after we log off here, again, reach out to those emails. But other than that, we'll go ahead and end this webinar, and thank you for joining, and thank you for everything that you do for Texas students.
Bye, everyone.